Black Hollow, ROAD, Part 1, when I was 12 years old. My grandfather gave me 3 rules about Black Hollow Road. The first was simple. Never take money from a driver who asks you to guide him across the mountain. The second made less sense. Never transport a dead body across the pass after dark. The third made no sense at all. Never ride with a driver who says he has already crossed the pass. I asked him why. Grandpa Silas looked at me for a long time before answering. Because sometimes the driver crossed it, he said. The truck didn't. That was the summer I learned what he meant. My grandparents lived outside a small Kentucky town where the Appalachian foothills rose into steep, wooded ridges. Their house sat less than a mile from the southern approach to Black Hollow Road, a narrow 2-lane highway that wound up and over the mountain before dropping toward an old coal corridor on the other side. People hated the road. Truckers hated it most. The grade was too steep in places. The curves were too tight. The shoulder disappeared without warning. Heavy rain washed rock and mud onto the pavement, and winter ice turned entire sections into glass. But bad engineering did not explain everything. There were stories about vehicles found abandoned with engines still running. Stories about drivers who called dispatch from mile markers that did not exist. Stories about truckers who vanished after going over the side, even when rescue crews found the wreckage. Grandpa never called those stories ghost stories. He called them road stories. There's a difference, he would say. What's the difference? A ghost story wants you scared. A road story wants you careful. Silas Cole had spent more than 40 years driving freight. By the time I was 12, he had stopped hauling long distance. He still owned an old blue Peterbilt that mostly sat behind the barn, but he no longer took jobs. What he did instead was stranger. Sometimes, especially when the weather turned bad, truckers came to the house looking for him. They did not come for repairs. They came for Silas. A driver would stand on the porch, cap in both hands, and say something like, "Mr. Cole, I've got 30 tons of steel and no business taking that pass alone." Grandpa would ask a few questions. What were you hauling? Where did you start? What time did you enter the mountain? Did you cross the pass already? If he liked the answers, he put on his coat and rode with them. He never accepted payment. Some came back later and left envelopes anyway. He mailed everyone back. Grandma Martha hated the whole arrangement. "You're retired," she told him whenever another driver appeared. "Road isn't. That road can kill people perfectly well without your help." "That's why?" they ask. Grandma would look at me and shake her head, as if Grandpa were something the two of us had been forced to tolerate. I thought it was funny then. I did not understand that she was afraid. That summer, I had been sent to stay with them because my parents were going through what adults called a difficult period. That meant my father had moved into an apartment, and my mother had stopped pretending everything was fine. Nobody told me how long I would be gone. So I spent June and July helping Grandpa around the property, fishing in a creek below the ridge, and riding into town with him for groceries. Black Hollow Road was always in the background. You could hear trucks climbing it at night. Their engines groaned against the grade. Sometimes air brakes hissed through the valley, like something breathing. Grandpa knew many of the drivers by name. He knew their companies, their routes, the age of their engines, and whether they were smart enough to stop when conditions got bad. He also kept old newspaper clippings in a cardboard box in the hall closet. I found them by accident. Most were about crashes. Some went back 20 or 30 years. One headline said, "Trucker missing after Black Hollow wreck." Another, "Search ends without recovery." Another, "Second driver vanishes on same mountain curve." I asked Grandpa why he kept them. He took the box from me. So I remember. Remember what? Names. That was all he said. The night Caleb Rourke came to our house, rain had been falling since late afternoon. Not a storm at first. Just a steady summer rain that flattened dust and turned the yard dark. Grandma had made meatloaf. Grandpa was at the kitchen table, cleaning a pocket knife. I was watching television when headlights swept across the living room wall. A diesel engine idled outside. Grandpa stopped moving. That detail stayed with me. He had not even looked through the window yet. But somehow, when he heard the engine, his hands went still. A moment later, someone knocked. 3 firm knocks. Grandma frowned. "Don't." Grandpa looked at her. "Don't. What?" "You know what?" He stood anyway. I followed him to the door. The man on the porch looked like every exhausted trucker I had ever seen around Black Hollow. Mid-30s, work boots, dark jeans, plaid shirt, beneath a brown jacket. Rain had soaked his shoulders. He had a tired, good-looking face and 2 days of beard growth. "Silas Cole." Grandpa nodded. "My name's Caleb Rourke." The man extended a hand. Grandpa did not take it. Caleb slowly lowered it. "I was told you sometimes help drivers through the pass." "Who told you?" "Marcus Reed." Grandpa's eyes shifted slightly. He knew the name. "What are you hauling?" "Machine parts." "Wait." About 26,000. Destination, Somerset Distribution Yard. Grandpa looked beyond them. A red Freightliner sat at the edge of the property with its running lights glowing through the rain. Where'd you come from? West Virginia. What time did you reach Black Hollow? Caleb checked his watch. Maybe 4. Grandpa's expression changed. You been over the pass yet? Caleb nodded. Yeah. Crossed it this afternoon. Grandpa stepped back. No. Caleb blinked. No. What? I'm not riding with you, Mr. Cole. I'll pay. I don't take money. Fine. Whatever you need. Nothing. Caleb gave a nervous laugh. Maybe I'm not explaining right. I already crossed the pass. I made my delivery. I just need to make it back. Grandpa's face became hard. You need to leave the truck where it is. Caleb stared at him. What? Leave it. On your property. Anywhere off Black Hollow. I have to get home. You're not driving that road tonight. Caleb's politeness began to crack. With respect, sir. I didn't drive all the way out here to be told to sleep in my truck, then sleep in my barn. My wife is expecting me. Grandpa said nothing. Caleb looked at Grandma, then at me. Something in his face changed. The anger faded. He rubbed both hands over his hair. My wife had a baby 7 months ago, he said. Grandpa stayed silent. She had complications. We're still paying hospital bills. I already missed 2 days last month when the truck was in the shop. If I miss another load, I lose this route. You said you already delivered. I did. Then go tomorrow. Caleb shook his head. I need to be home tonight. Why? Caleb hesitated. Then he smiled sadly. Because I told her I would. That landed differently. Even Grandpa seemed to feel it. Caleb looked toward his truck. I know it sounds stupid. It doesn't. She worries when I'm late. I told Rachel I'd be back before midnight. Grandpa asked, Your daughter's name? Caleb smiled. Emily. How old? 7 months. Grandpa closed his eyes for a second. Grandma whispered, Silas. He opened them. You said Marcus sent you. Yes. Exactly what did he say? He said if Black Hollow looked bad, find Silas Cole. Grandpa looked at the rain, then at Caleb. Wait by the truck. Caleb nodded. Thank you. When he walked away, Grandma shut the door. No. Grandpa went toward the hall closet. She caught his arm. You said no. I changed my mind. You made that rule. I know. You made it for a reason. I know. Then why are you breaking it? Grandpa pulled on his old canvas coat. Because sometimes a man needs somebody to ride beside him. Grandma stepped in front of him. You're not talking about driving. No. Silas. He kissed her forehead. Then he looked at me. His voice was calm. If I'm not back before sunrise, you do not come looking for me. I tried to grin. You always come back. He did not smile. That wasn't what I said. Grandma opened her mouth. Grandpa shook his head. Promise me, Ethan. I promised. Then he went outside. I watched from the window as he climbed into the passenger side of Caleb's Freightliner. The truck pulled onto the county road. Its taillights disappeared toward Black Hollow. Grandma stood beside me until the sound of the engine faded. Then she locked the door. At 1 in the morning, I was still awake. Grandma had not gone to bed. She sat in the kitchen with coffee that had gone cold. Rain tapped against the windows. I tried reading. I tried television. Nothing held my attention. At 1:47, somebody knocked. Grandma looked at me. I looked at her. The knock came again. 3 slow knocks. Grandma moved toward the door. I followed. She whispered, Stay back. The porch light came on. A man stood outside. He was tall and narrow. His clothes were soaked with mud, but strangely, I could not see water dripping from them. A cut ran from his temple toward his cheek. One side of his face looked slightly swollen. He wore a trucker cap with the logo of a company I did not recognize. Grandma kept the screen door between them. Can I help you? The man peered past her. Silas home? No. Where is he? Grandma's grip tightened on the door. Who are you? Wade. His eyes shifted to me. Wade Mercer. The name meant nothing to me. Grandma's face emptied. What do you want? I need Silas to ride with me. He's not available. Wade frowned. He promised. Grandma said nothing. He promised he'd ride with me tonight. I said. He's with another driver. Wade looked at me. His expression became strange. Not angry exactly. Hurt. Another driver. I nodded. Name. Caleb. Grandma turned sharply. Ethan. But Wade had already heard. He stared past us toward the kitchen, as though expecting Grandpa to step out. Then he looked over his shoulder toward the road. His shoulders tightened. Tell him he can't do that. Grandma whispered. Do what? Wade looked back at her. Leave us out there. A long silence followed. Then he stepped away from the porch. I noticed something then. The rain was falling through the yellow porch light. I could see it hitting the steps. I could see it hitting the railing, but I could not see it hit Wade. He walked across the yard. No footsteps splashed in the puddles. His boots sank into nothing. He reached the road. Then darkness swallowed him. Grandma slammed the door. She locked it, then the deadbolt. Then the old brass chain Grandpa had installed years before. Who was he? I asked. Go to your room. You knew him. Ethan. Who was Wade Mercer? She turned. Her eyes were wet. Go upstairs. I did not. Grandma went to the hall closet. She took down Grandpa's cardboard box. Her hands shook as she searched through the clippings. Finally, she found one. She sat at the kitchen table. I read over her shoulder. The headline was dated 11 years earlier. Local trucker, missing after Black Hollow crash. Below it was a black and white photograph. The man on our porch, Wade Mercer. The article said his tractor trailer had broken through a guardrail during heavy rain. The wreckage had been found almost 200 feet below the roadway. His cab had been crushed. His body had never been recovered. I read the article twice. Then I looked at Grandma. He was here. I know. He talked to us. I know. He's dead. Grandma looked toward the front door. I know. For the first time in my life, I understood why she hated Black Hollow Road. Grandpa did not come home before sunrise. By 8 in the morning, Grandma had called the sheriff. By 9, deputies were checking the road. By 10, they found nothing. No red Freightliner, no skid marks, no accident, no Silas, no Caleb. I broke my promise before noon. I convinced myself I was not looking for Grandpa. I was only checking the lower turnout. That was a lie. I rode my bicycle toward Black Hollow until the road began to climb. The rain had stopped, but fog hung low between the trees. Traffic was light. A few cars passed. No trucks. At the first overlook, I found Grandpa's flashlight. It lay beside the ditch. Mud on one side. The batteries still worked. There was no sign of him. I picked it up. Then I noticed the mile marker. 41. That did not make sense. The first overlook was nowhere near mile 41. Black Hollow Road did not even have 41 miles between towns. I stared at the sign. A truck horn sounded behind me. I jumped. A white delivery truck came around the curve. For an instant, as it passed, the mile marker vanished behind it. When the truck cleared, the sign read, 17. I rode home so fast, my legs burned. Grandma was furious. Then I showed her the flashlight. She stopped yelling. Where? First overlooked. She looked at the mud on it. Anything else? I hesitated. What? The marker said 41. Grandma sat down slowly. I asked, what does that mean? She stared at the flashlight. It means your grandfather should have told me more. He came home that afternoon. At 3:22, he walked up the driveway alone. No truck, no Caleb. His clothes were wet and dirty. Blood had dried beneath one nostril. Grandma ran outside. I followed. She hit him once in the chest, then hugged him. You son of a bitch. I know. Where's the driver? Grandpa looked over her shoulder at me. Gone. Dead, I asked. Grandpa closed his eyes. I don't know. Grandma took him inside. He slept for hours. When he woke, he ate half a bowl of soup and finally told us the story he had avoided for more than 20 years. In 1989, Grandpa had been hauling machine tools north through Black Hollow. It was raining. He crossed mile 40 around 2 in the morning, then mile 41. 5 minutes later, he saw mile 41 again. He thought he had missed a turn. He checked his odometer. The numbers moved. The road did not. 10 minutes later, he passed mile 41 for the third time. The radio turned to static. The CB went quiet. Then headlights appeared behind him. A tractor trailer pulled alongside. It was an old model from the 1970s. Grandpa looked at the driver. The man had no left side of his face. But he was still driving. Like nothing was wrong, Grandpa said. Grandma went pale. Grandpa continued. More trucks appeared. Some old, some newer, some damaged. One had a cab burned black. Another dragged a trailer with half its wheels missing. They drove in both lanes. They ignored curves. They ignored guardrails. They moved through one another in the fog. Grandpa tried to stop. His brakes worked, but every time the truck slowed below 20 miles an hour, something began pounding on the trailer from behind. He kept moving. Eventually, he saw a driver standing beside the road. The man waved. Grandpa almost stopped. Then the man turned. His chest had been crushed inward. Grandpa drove past. After what felt like hours, he saw a narrow exit ramp on the right. There was no sign, no pavement, just a road between two black trees. He took it. The next thing he knew, his truck was sitting at a rest area 20 miles north of Black Hollow. Only 17 minutes had passed. He told nobody. For months. Then truckers started coming to the house. Men he had never met. Some alive, some not. Some knew his name. Some said they had seen his truck on the mountain. A few had entered what Grandpa eventually called the Dead Mile and escaped after following his lights. Others had not escaped. Why do they come here? I asked. I don't know. Why you? I don't know. Why did Wade come? Grandpa rubbed his face. Because I saw him once. What? About a year after he died. Grandma whispered. You never told me. Grandpa looked at her. I didn't want you waiting for him to show up at the door. What did he want? Same thing he wanted last night. A ride. Grandpa nodded. He thinks he's still working. I asked. He doesn't know he's dead. Grandpa looked at me. That's the worst part. I thought of Wade on our porch. The confusion in his face when I said Grandpa was helping someone else. What about Caleb? Grandpa became quiet. He went into the Dead Mile. Yes. Did you? Yes. Grandma grabbed his hand. Grandpa continued. Caleb crossed mile 41 twice. I told him to turn around. He couldn't. Road wouldn't let him. What happened? He kept talking about home. Grandpa stared at the table. Rachel, Emily, the hospital bills. His route, everything he thought was waiting for him. Thought. Grandpa did not answer. Then headlights swept across the front window. A diesel engine rolled into the yard. We all stood. A red Freightliner stopped outside. The driver door opened. Caleb Rourke climbed down. He looked exhausted. Mud covered his jacket. His face was pale, but he was smiling. He opened the front door before anyone invited him. Mr. Cole, he said. You were right. Grandpa stood very slowly. Caleb laughed. I don't know what happened up there, but you got me through. Grandpa whispered. Caleb. Caleb looked around. Rachel's gonna kill me. I'm almost a day late. Grandpa stared at him. Where's your truck? Caleb pointed outside. Right there. I looked through the window. The red Freightliner was gone. The yard was empty. I turned back. Caleb was still smiling. He had not noticed. Grandpa had. And from the way he looked at Caleb Rourke, I knew something was terribly wrong. Black Hollow, ROAD, Part 2. Grandpa did not tell Caleb what he saw. Neither did I. Caleb stood in our kitchen, rubbing his hands together, talking about how bad the road had been and how lucky he felt. He remembered almost nothing after mile 41. Fog, Grandpa shouting directions, a line of trucks moving through darkness, then daylight on the other side of the mountain. Grandma asked where he had delivered the machine parts. Somerset. We're in Somerset. The yard? What yard? Caleb opened his mouth. Nothing came out. He laughed uneasily. Long night. Grandma handed him the phone and told him to call Rachel. He dialed. Static. He tried again. Static. Storm probably knocked the line out, Grandpa said. Probably. That was the first lie I ever heard my grandfather tell so carefully. Caleb stayed for breakfast, or at least he sat at the table. Grandma made eggs, bacon, and biscuits. Caleb drank coffee. He cut an egg in half, pushed food around his plate, but I never saw him swallow anything. Grandpa noticed me noticing. He shook his head once. Don't say anything. After breakfast, Caleb went outside to find his truck. He stopped in the middle of the yard. Where is it? Grandpa came out behind him. What? My rig. There isn't one here. Caleb turned sharply. I parked it right there, Grandpa said. Maybe you remember parking it. What does that mean? You've been awake a long time. I know where I parked my truck. There's no truck, Caleb. Fear slowly replaced anger on his face. I drove it here. Grandpa said nothing. I did. I know you think you did. Caleb stepped closer. What are you saying? Grandpa sighed. I'm saying you should stay here today. Caleb tried to leave on foot anyway. He walked south. 40 minutes later, he came back from behind our barn. He looked shaken. I never turned around, Grandpa asked. What happened? I walked straight south. And somehow, I ended up here. That was the beginning. For the next 2 weeks, Caleb stayed with us. At first because Grandpa insisted. Then, because Caleb seemed to understand he had nowhere else he could reach. He became useful, almost immediately. That was just who he was. He fixed a leak over the porch, rebuilt the lawnmower carburetor, replaced the broken hinge on the barn, helped Grandpa repair an air line on the old Peterbilt. He taught me how to check brake chambers and how to listen for an air leak. Never trust a truck because it looks big, he told me. Big things fail too. You sound like Grandpa. Your grandpa sounds smart. You should hear Grandma. Caleb laughed. It was easy to like him. That mattered later. At first I began thinking Grandpa might be wrong. Maybe Caleb had been disoriented. Maybe his truck had been stolen. Maybe whatever happened on Black Hollow had damaged his memory. But small things did not fit. Caleb never seemed hungry. He drank coffee, but the same mug could sit half full all afternoon. His clothes never seemed dirtier, even after working in the barn. He slept in the spare room, yet every morning the sheets looked untouched. He carried a wallet, but the print on his driver's license seemed rubbed away whenever I tried to focus on it. One afternoon I asked to see a picture of Rachel and Emily. He pulled a small photograph from behind his license. Rachel sat on a couch holding a baby. Caleb smiled at the picture. "Aren't they beautiful?" I nodded. But to me, Rachel's face looked faded white. The baby was almost a blur. Caleb saw them clearly. That frightened me more than if the picture had been blank. Every day he tried calling home. Every time he heard static, he never stopped believing there was a normal explanation. "Phone company in this county is garbage," he said. Grandpa became quieter as Caleb became more comfortable. I often found him in the barn staring at old road maps. He marked crash sites with pencil, curves, old pull-offs, places where drivers disappeared. Then he drew another road over Black Hollow, a looping road that crossed itself again and again. At the center, he wrote one number, 41. "You're trying to find a way back," I said. Grandpa covered the map. "No, you are." He looked at me. "I'm trying to make sure I never have to." That night rain returned. Around midnight, I heard a low hiss outside. I looked through my window. Caleb was sitting in Grandpa's Peterbilt. The engine was off. The dashboard lights were glowing anyway. I went outside. The driver's door was open. Caleb sat with one hand on the CB radio. Static filled the cab. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Couldn't sleep." "You don't sleep." He looked at me. I wished I had not said it. Then he smiled faintly. "Feels like that sometimes." The radio crackled. A man's voice broke through. "Rourke." Caleb froze. Static. Then, "Rourke, you missed the turn again." I knew the voice. "Wade Mercer." Caleb grabbed the microphone. "Who is this?" Static. "Rourke," Caleb whispered. "Wade." I stared at him. "You know him?" Caleb ignored me. The radio hissed. Then Wade said one word. 41. The dashboard lights died. Caleb dropped the microphone. Neither of us spoke for several seconds. Finally I asked, "How do you know Wade?" "I don't." "You said his name?" Caleb looked through the windshield. "I dreamed about him. When? On the road. With Grandpa." He nodded. "He drove beside us for a long time." "What did he want?" "I don't know." The next morning, a green Kenworth pulled into our yard. The driver was Marcus Reed. Marcus was in his 50s. Broad-shouldered, gray mustache, face burned dark by years, behind a windshield. He carried a box of peaches onto the porch. "Silas, alive," Grandpa called from inside. Unfortunately, Marcus laughed. Then he saw Caleb beside the barn. The box almost slipped from his hands. His face went pale. Caleb smiled. "Marcus." Marcus did not answer. Caleb walked closer. "Hell, man, good to see you." Marcus backed up. Grandpa came outside. "Marcus." Marcus looked from Grandpa to Caleb. "What is this?" Caleb frowned. "What's what?" Marcus whispered. "Silas," Grandpa said quietly. "Come inside." "No." "Marcus." "No. Tell me right now." Caleb stopped smiling. Marcus stared at him, then said, "Caleb, Rourke died last year." Nobody moved. Rain dripped from the porch roof. Caleb gave one confused laugh. "That's not funny." Marcus did not smile. "You died on Black Hollow." "Shut up." 14 months ago. I said shut up. Marcus looked at Grandpa. "You knew." I suspected. Caleb stepped forward. "You to think this is funny?" Marcus's eyes were wet. "I helped pull your truck out." Caleb went still. "What?" "I was behind the rescue crew." "No." "Your cab was under the trailer." "No." "We found you inside." "No." "I went to your funeral." Caleb shoved Marcus into the porch rail. Grandpa moved between them. "Caleb knew." His voice cracked across the yard. Caleb backed away. "This is insane." Marcus reached into his wallet and pulled out a folded newspaper clipping. He held it toward Caleb. Caleb refused to take it, so I did. "Local driver killed in Black Hollow crash." The photograph was Caleb. The article named his wife, Rachel, and his infant daughter, Emily. The date was 14 months earlier. I looked at him. He stared at the paper. His lips moved. "No," Grandpa whispered. "I'm sorry." Caleb grabbed the clipping and tore it in half. "You think a newspaper means I'm dead?" Nobody answered. "I'm standing here," Marcus whispered. "I know." "You shook my hand." "I know." "You knew Rachel." "I know." "Then look at me." Marcus did. "Do I look dead?" Marcus said. "No." "Then stop saying it." Caleb walked toward the road. Grandpa did not stop him. He reached the mailbox, kept walking. 5 minutes later, he came around the side of our barn. He stopped dead. He tried again. North, this time. 20 minutes later, he stepped out of the trees behind the house. That was when Caleb finally stopped arguing. He sat on the back steps until dark. Grandpa joined him. I listened from the kitchen window. Caleb asked, "If I'm dead, why can you see me?" "I don't know. Why can I touch things?" "I don't know. Why can I think?" "I don't know." "You keep saying that, because I'd rather tell you the truth than make up something comforting." Caleb wiped his face. "What happened on the mountain?" Grandpa hesitated. "When we entered the dead mile, you kept seeing home." "Rachel." "Yes." "My house." "Yes." "Emily crying." Grandpa nodded. Caleb stared at the yard. "I could hear her. I know." "What happened next?" "There was an exit." Caleb looked at him. "You said that before. It only stayed open a few seconds. And you drove toward it. Where were you?" Grandpa's voice lowered. "I remember getting out of the cab. I remember trying to pull you with me. Then I remember standing in the road. What happened after? I don't know." Grandpa looked afraid when he said it. That mattered. Silas Cole remembered roads. Every curve, every bridge, every mile. The dead mile had taken part of his memory. 2 days later, Grandma found Rachel Rourke. Marcus had an old contact number. The trucking company had forwarding information from insurance paperwork. Eventually, Grandma reached Rachel through her sister. Caleb stood across the kitchen when the call came. He refused to touch the phone. Grandma said we had found some of Caleb's belongings. Rachel's voice came faintly through the receiver. Grandma asked about the accident. "Yes," Rachel said. "Black Hollow." Caleb closed his eyes. "When?" Grandma asked. "Last May." Grandma asked if she was sure. A long silence. Then Rachel said, "I buried my husband." Caleb sat down. Rachel continued. "Our daughter was 7 months old when he died." Caleb covered his mouth. 7 months. The age he had repeated since the night he arrived. For him, no time had passed. Rachel said she and Emily had moved to Tennessee. Emily was walking now. Talking. Caleb whispered, "No." When the call ended, he stayed at the table. I sat beside him. "My daughter can walk," he said. I nodded. I missed it. I had no answer. He looked at me. "She thinks I left." "No. I promised I'd be home before midnight." "You didn't leave." "Them. I didn't come home. You died." The words escaped before I could stop them. Caleb looked at me. Then he began to cry. Quietly. Not like a ghost. Like a father. The next morning, Grandpa drove us to the county impound yard. Marcus had told us Caleb's wreck was still there. Rows of damaged vehicles sat behind chain-link fence. Burned cars. Crushed pickups. Trucks stripped for parts. Caleb walked between them slowly, then stopped. A red Freightliner sat at the far end. The cab was twisted almost beyond recognition. Rust had begun around the exposed metal. On the driver door, beneath scratches and faded paint, I could still read. "C. Rourke." Caleb touched the letters. His hands shook. He climbed onto the frame and looked inside. Something hung from the bent rear-view mirror. A small pink hospital bracelet. The name strip was faded, but readable. Emily Rourke. Caleb grabbed the door frame. Then the memories came back. Rain. A long downgrade. His foot on the brake. The pedal dropping too far. Low air warning. A curve. Guardrail. Weightlessness. Impact. Darkness. Then someone opening the crushed cab. Grandpa. Caleb turned toward. "Silas, you were there." Grandpa nodded. "After I crashed?" "Yes, I was already dead." Grandpa's eyes filled. "Yes." Caleb looked back at the wreck. "Then you never helped me cross?" "No." "You came to get me?" "Yes." "Why?" Grandpa looked at him. "Because you asked." Caleb laughed through tears. "I was dead. You still asked." Then another memory returned. Caleb's face changed. The exit. Grandpa said nothing. I remember it now. Caleb stepped closer. "You were standing in the road." "Yes." "You shoved me toward it." Grandpa closed his eyes. "And you stayed behind?" "For a while. No." Caleb shook his head. "Longer." Grandpa looked toward the mountain. Caleb whispered, "You gave me your way home." Grandpa said, "Maybe." Caleb's voice became steady. "No. You did." The first drops of rain began tapping against the wrecked Freightliner. Caleb looked toward Black Hollow Road. And for the first time since he had arrived at our house, he knew exactly where he needed to go. Black Hollow, ROAD, Part 3, by sunset. The Weather Service had issued a flash flood warning for 3 counties. Grandma heard it on the radio and immediately looked at Grandpa. "No." He stood at the kitchen window. "I didn't say anything. You don't have to." Caleb sat at the table. He had barely spoken since the impound yard. Grandma pointed at both men. Nobody's going to that mountain. Caleb said. Martha, no. I have to. You are dead. You do not have to do anything. The words hit hard. Grandma regretted them immediately. Caleb did not look angry. He looked tired. That's exactly why I have to. Grandpa turned. No. Caleb looked at him. You brought me out. I made a mistake. Then let me fix it. You don't know how. Neither did you. Grandpa stepped closer. I survived the dead mile once. I got out again with you, and left part of yourself behind. Grandpa's jaw tightened. Caleb continued. You don't remember the exit? You don't remember standing there? You don't remember why it let me through? I remember enough. No, I do. The room went silent. Caleb looked at me. I remember what Wade was doing. Grandpa stared at him. What? Not on the radio. Before. Caleb spoke slowly. When we were on the dead mile, Wade pulled beside me. I remember he kept pointing ahead. Yes, I thought he was warning me. What was he doing? He was counting. Grandpa frowned. Counting what? Drivers. Caleb looked toward the rain-dark window. One in, one out. Grandma whispered. What? The exit doesn't just open. Caleb stood. It trades. I thought of Grandpa telling me Caleb had reached the exit first. You mean somebody has to stay? Caleb looked at me. I think somebody always stays. Grandpa said. You don't know that. Caleb nodded. I do now. Grandpa's face hardened. Then nobody goes back. Caleb smiled sadly. You think it's done with you? Grandpa said nothing. I heard Wade on the radio. So, he wasn't calling me. Caleb looked at Grandpa. He was calling you. Lightning flashed over the hills. Grandpa crossed the room and unplugged the kitchen radio. Caleb gave a short laugh. You know that won't help. Maybe not. Grandpa locked the barn. He put the Peterbilt keys in a steel toolbox. He moved the pickup behind the house. He checked every door. Grandma made me promise I would stay inside. I promised. By then, I had become very good at breaking promises. At 11:36 p.m., I heard an engine. Not from the yard, from the road. Headlights moved through the rain. An old tractor trailer stopped beyond our mailbox. I could not see the cab clearly. Then Caleb walked out of the barn. I never knew how he opened the lock. Maybe locks no longer mattered to him. He crossed the yard. The truck door opened. Caleb climbed in. The rig started moving. I ran downstairs. Grandpa's room was empty. Grandma had fallen asleep in a chair beside the disconnected radio. I should have woken her. Instead, I grabbed my coat and ran outside. The truck was already 50 yards away. I chased it. Then it slowed. The passenger door opened. Caleb leaned across. Ethan, I ran harder. What are you doing? Going with you? No. You can't stop me. I can absolutely stop you. I reached the step. He could have closed the door. He did not. I climbed in. Caleb swore. You are the worst kid I have ever met. You're dead. That does not make you less annoying. He looked toward our house. Get out. No, I'm serious. So am I. He stared at me, then pulled onto Black Hollow Road. What truck is this? I asked. Caleb looked around the cab. I don't know. The dashboard was old. Analog gauges. Cracked vinyl. No company logo. No registration papers. The CB radio glowed amber. Where did you get it? It was waiting. That should have been enough to make me jump out. Instead, I buckled my seatbelt. Rain hammered the windshield. The road climbed. Mile 37, 38, 39, then 40. Caleb gripped the wheel. From here on, do exactly what I say. Okay, if you hear somebody outside, don't open the window. Okay? If you see your grandparents on the road, don't stop. What? If you see your mother, don't stop. My stomach tightened. Why would I see my mother? You won't. How do you know? I don't. We passed mile 41. Nothing happened. The road curved left. Fog thickened. 5 minutes later, another marker appeared. 41, Caleb whispered. Here we go. The radio lost its station. Static. The engine noise changed. Not louder, more distant. Like we were hearing our own truck from another road. We passed mile 41 for the third time. The world changed. Black Hollow was still beneath us. But another highway had settled on top of it. The asphalt widened. Guardrails appeared, where none existed. Old billboards stood in the fog advertising companies that had closed decades earlier. Truck lights moved in both directions. Some rigs looked perfect. Some were wrecked. One trailer burned without giving off heat. Another rolled on wheels that did not touch the pavement. The CB came alive. Dozens of voices overlapped. Northbound. Brakes gone. Tell dispatch. Mile 41. Rachel. Caleb shut the radio off. The voices continued. I stared at him. Radio's off. I know. A blue tractor trailer pulled alongside. The driver window rolled down. Wade Mercer looked at us. The wound on his face was worse than when he had stood on our porch. The side of his skull above the ear was crushed inward, but he looked calm. He lifted 2 fingers. Caleb returned the trucker's wave. Wade pointed ahead, then held up 1 finger. Caleb whispered, 1. Wade pointed behind us. 1 finger again, 1 out. Then Wade accelerated into the fog. We followed. Time had no shape there. We passed mile 41, again and again. At 1 marker, a woman stood beside the road, holding a baby. Caleb's hands tightened around the wheel. Rachel. I could see only a shadow. Don't stop. I know. The woman screamed his name. Caleb drove faster. At another marker, I saw my mother. Not a shadow. My mother. She stood barefoot in the rain. Ethan. My hand went to the door handle. Caleb slapped it away. That's not her. She needs help. No. She's crying. Look at me. I couldn't. He grabbed my chin. Look at me. I did. Your mother is not on this road. I started crying. I know. Say it. My mother is not on this road. Again. My mother is not on this road. When I looked back, she was gone. A mile later, we found Grandpa. His old blue Peterbilt appeared ahead of us. Except it was not old. The paint was new. Chrome clean. Exactly like photographs from the 1980s. Caleb accelerated and pulled alongside. Grandpa was driving. He looked 20 years younger. That was almost worse. Grandpa! I shouted. He did not react. I rolled the window down. Caleb shouted, No! Grandpa! Silas finally looked over. His face was blank. He did not know me. I felt something inside me collapse. Caleb grabbed the CB. Silas static. Silas call. Grandpa's eyes moved toward his radio. Caleb continued. You owe me a ride. The CB crackled. Who is this? My grandfather's voice. But distant. Caleb smiled. Caleb Rourke. Silence. Then, Rourke. Yes. You already crossed. Caleb's eyes filled. Yes, sir. Then I'm not riding with you. Despite everything, I laughed. So did Caleb. Grandpa looked over again. This time his eyes found me. His face changed. Ethan. Grandpa. His truck swerved. Caleb pulled away. Stay in your lane. Grandpa corrected. The CB crackled. What are you doing here? I said. Getting you. You promised. I lied. Grandpa closed his eyes. Of course you did. For the first time he sounded like himself. Caleb said, Follow me. Where? Grandpa asked. Home. Wade's truck appeared ahead. He flashed his lights twice, then turned right. There was no road. Then there was. A narrow lane appeared through the fog. No signs. No markings. Wet pavement between 2 black trees. The exit. Grandpa's truck moved toward it. The lane began to close. Fog folded over the asphalt. Caleb accelerated. Grandpa followed. The CB filled with voices. Not random now. Angry. Truck horns sounded behind us. Headlights multiplied in the mirrors. Dozens of rigs were coming. Wade swung his truck sideways between us and the convoy. The first phantom rig crashed through him. For a moment, Wade disappeared. Then he reappeared and blocked another. Caleb shouted, Go! Grandpa reached the exit first. His front wheels crossed. Then his truck stopped. The engine died. Caleb slammed the brakes. What happened? Grandpa came over the CB. It won't let me. Caleb whispered, Because I'm still here. I looked at him. No. He opened his door. What are you doing? 1 in, 1 out. No. Ethan. You said you were bringing him back. I am. You're coming too. Caleb smiled. I already got my turn. He jumped down. Grandpa opened his door too. Caleb ran through the rain and climbed onto Grandpa's passenger step. Mauvais. Grandpa fought him. I'm not leaving you. You already did this once. That's why I won't do it again. Caleb looked at him. Then Emily grows up with a ghost for a father, and Ethan grows up without a grandfather. Grandpa stopped. Caleb continued. You saved the wrong man last time. No. Yes. You had a family. So do you. Caleb looked at me. So does he. The phantom trucks were getting closer. Wade could not hold them forever. Caleb shoved Grandpa into the passenger seat. Then he looked at me. Behind the wheel, I stared at him. What? Drive. I climbed across. I had driven Grandpa's pickup in fields. Never a semi. Never a truck on a road for dead men. Grandpa yelled, Ethan? No. Caleb said, Air's up. Gears in. Keep it straight. That is not enough instruction. Grandpa shouted. Caleb laughed. Best I've got. I pressed the accelerator. The Peterbilt moved, slowly at first, then faster. The front half crossed the exit. The road shook beneath us. Caleb ran beside the truck. I screamed, "Get in." He kept pace. Rain began passing through his jacket. His face flickered. Alive. Dead. Alive again. For the first time I saw the injuries from his crash. Blood at his temple. A broken shoulder. Then he looked normal. Caleb. He grabbed the window frame. For 1 second I thought he would climb in. Instead he said, "If you ever meet Emily, I will. Don't tell her I was stuck." I could barely see through tears. "Okay. Tell her I was trying to get home." I nodded. Caleb let go. Grandpa screamed his name. The truck crossed the exit. Behind us, Caleb stood in the road. Wade pulled up beside him. The two men watched us go. Then the dead mile folded shut. I drove straight into daylight. The Peterbilt rolled onto wet gravel. The engine died. I hit the brakes. We were in the lower Black Hollow Tunnel. Morning light spread through the trees. No storm, no fog, no phantom trucks. Grandma's pickup skidded to a stop behind us. She jumped out and ran toward Grandpa, then me. She hugged both of us so hard I could barely breathe. "You were gone 17 minutes. I stared at her. "What? 17 minutes? We had been in the dead mile for hours. Grandpa looked back, toward Black Hollow. Grandma grabbed his face. "No, I wasn't going back. You were thinking about it." "I was thinking about Caleb." Grandma's anger broke. She hugged him again. Grandpa never guided another driver across Black Hollow after that. People still came. He turned them away. Sometimes he paid for a motel room. Sometimes he called the sheriff and asked for the road to be closed. But he never climbed into another stranger's cab. A year later, the state began a major study of Black Hollow. Too many crashes, too many landslides, too many lawsuits. The old road was eventually restricted to local traffic. Years later, a tunnel and bypass carried most freight around the mountain. The accident numbers collapsed. The stories faded. Grandpa lived another 18 years. He died in his sleep at 78. At his funeral, truckers filled the church parking lot. Men I had never met. Women who knew his name. Drivers from 3 states. Some said Silas had saved their lives. Others said he had saved their fathers. One man left an old CB microphone on Grandpa's casket. Grandma did not ask who he was. I became a highway engineer. That was not an accident. I spent my career studying road grades, drainage, landslide risk, visibility, brake zones, and crash patterns. I wanted every dangerous road to have a reason. Reasons can be fixed. Guardrails can be replaced. Curves can be widened. Slopes can be stabilized. Ghosts cannot. For years, I searched accident databases for Black Hollow. I found patterns. Heavy rain, fatigued drivers, old brakes, poor sight distance, all the normal explanations. I tried to convince myself the dead mile had been something we imagined under stress. Then I would remember my mother standing barefoot in the rain. I would remember Wade Mercer. I would remember Caleb letting go of the truck. When I was 32, I found Emily Rourke. She was living in Tennessee. She was a teacher, married, 2 children. I wrote her a letter. Not an email, a real letter. I told her my grandfather had known her father, that Caleb had spoken about her often, that he loved Rachel, that he loved Emily, even though he had known her only 7 months. Emily called me. We talked for almost an hour. She asked, "Were you with him before he died?" I thought about Caleb at Grandma's kitchen table. Caleb fixing the porch. Caleb teaching me air brakes. Caleb driving through the dead mile, I said. After. Silence. "What?" I smiled. "Long story." She laughed. I never told her. Maybe I should have. Maybe one day I will. The last time I saw Caleb Rourke was 9 years ago. I was driving through eastern Kentucky after inspecting a bridge replacement. Rain started around midnight. Not heavy. Steady. The kind of rain that turns pavement black. My GPS froze. The radio lost signal. I checked my location. I was nowhere near Black Hollow. Then I passed a mile marker. 41. My hands tightened on the wheel. I told myself it was coincidence. A minute later I passed another. 41. I did not stop. I did not look behind me. Then headlights appeared in the mirror. A semi approached. Old red Freightliner. The truck pulled alongside. I looked. Caleb Rourke sat behind the wheel, exactly as he had looked when he first came to my grandparents' house. 35 years old. Brown jacket. Tired face. Small smile. He lifted 2 fingers from the wheel. A trucker's wave. I did the same. Caleb pointed ahead. A narrow road peered through the rain. No sign. No pavement markings. Just darkness between 2 rows of trees. Caleb turned onto it. Before he disappeared, another truck followed him. Blue. Older. The driver looked over. Wade Mercer. Then both trucks vanished. My GPS returned. The radio came back. The next mile marker read 42. I kept driving. For most of my life, I thought Black Hollow Road was haunted. It wasn't. The road was only a door. And some people never finish driving through it. Maybe they are trapped. Maybe they are waiting. Maybe they are still looking for somebody who knows the way home. I only know one thing for certain. If you are ever driving alone through the mountains at night, and the rain starts falling hard enough to erase the world beyond your headlights, watch the mile markers. If you see the same number twice, keep moving. If you see it 3 times, do not stop. And if a driver pulls alongside you and points toward a road that is not on your map, let him go first. He may have been trying to get home longer than you have been alive. End.